Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Monday, the 21st of July. You're tuned into our mid-morning newscast here on Arirang TV. I'm Mark Broom. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. Pro-Russian separatists in Ukraine say they probably have recovered the black box from the downed Malaysia Airlines flight MH17. Western leaders are urging Russian President Putin to pressure the separatists to allow complete access to the crash site. Korea's rival parties are expected to lock horns over a special bill on April's ferry disaster when the National Assembly opens its extraordinary session for the month of July on this Monday morning. Plus, the UN Security Council is holding an emergency meeting to discuss almost 2 weeks of fighting in Gaza that has so far cost more than 400 lives. But our top story this morning, pro-Russian separatists in Ukraine say they've recovered an object from the crash site that's believed to be the plane's black box. Scores of bodies have also been loaded onto trains where they'll be kept in refrigerated carriages until international experts arrive at the scene. Our Sohn Jung-in starts us off.
The footage shows a rescue worker holding an orange-colored device as he walks through a wheat field in the rebel-controlled Donetsk region. The worker calls out the word fly recorder in Russian while carrying what appears to be the black box, which may help solve the mystery behind the downed plane.
We found a key element of the plane. We presume it is the black box.
Alexander Borodai said the device is now being stored in Donetsk and that they're ready to hand it to the International Civil Aviation Organization.
We are keeping the black box in Donetsk. We are waiting for international civil aviation representatives to arrive.
The rebel leader also said the bodies of victims recovered from the crash site will remain in refrigerated containers at a train station in the town of Torres in the meantime. He denied allegations that rebels were trying to tamper with evidence. International monitors had reported that the human remains were headed to an unknown site, with conductors not disclosing where the bodies would be going. Meanwhile, Western leaders, including Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, have urged Vladimir Putin to put pressure on pro-Russian separatists to allow complete access to the crash site.
President Putin has one last chance to show the world that he is willing to help.
The Prime Minister of the Netherlands, which lost the most citizens in the crash, said his country was furious about the manhandling of corpses and urged Putin to show he's serious about helping international rescuers bring the bodies home. An urgent vote is expected to take place within the next 24 hours in the UN Security Council on a resolution that would condemn the downing of the plane and demand those responsible to be held accountable. Sohn Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea, which previously talked about boycotting the upcoming Asian Games hosted by South Korea, now says it will take part in the international sporting event. Watching some sport of his own, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un specifically talked about improving ties with the South. Choi Yoo-sun reports.
Days after Pyongyang walked out of inter-Korean talks on North Korea's participation at the upcoming Asian Games in the South, the North's leader Kim Jong-un highlighted cross-border reconciliation and cooperation through the sporting event on Sunday.
Saying the Asian Games will be an important opportunity for the two Koreas to improve ties and alleviate distrust, he added sports are sacred and should not be used as a political bargaining chip for rebellious powers.
Reporting on Kim's observation of the North Korean national football team, Pyongyang state media added North Korea has decided to send a delegation of athletes to the Incheon Asian Games from September 19th to October 4th. This is in stark contrast to Pyongyang saying it would reconsider attending the Games, accusing Seoul of being hostile during last Thursday's talks.
It was clear that after the morning meeting, the South Korean delegation was ordered by the presidential office of Cheongwade not to be swayed by the North's proposals, but to overturn everything.
The North's apparent flip-flopping is thought to be its way of pressuring the South to return to negotiations. On the military front, the North's powerful National Defense Commission has threatened to retaliate in response to Seoul and Washington's condemnation of its recent missile testing and artillery firings. Choi Yu-sun, Arirang News.
Now, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says Washington's diplomatic engagement with Beijing over the North Korean nuclear issue has kept Pyongyang, quote-unquote, quieter in recent months. Appearing on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday, Kerry said cooperation with China since his visit to the country last year hasn't led to the expected goals in regards to Pyongyang's denuclearization, but they were moving forward in that respect. Kerry's remarks slightly reflect the fact that the North didn't conduct a fourth nuclear test, as it had threatened to do earlier this year, and also that it hasn't launched any long-range missiles as of late. The UN Security Council last week, however, condemned Pyongyang's recent series of short-range missile tests towards the East Sea off the Korean peninsula. North Korea has been sending rather mixed signals to the south in recent days and weeks, test-firing missiles one day and proposing talks the next. So this has many pundits asking whether this is a new tactic under Kim Jong-un and how we should now assess North Korea's latest actions. Well, our Hwang Sang-yi posed that and other questions to Robert Carlin, a former US State Department official who deals mostly with North Korea.
The North Koreans will never be one thing or the other. And here's the difference. Up until the point at which negotiations actually start, you'll see both streams going side by side. Once negotiations start, you'll see much less, and in some cases none at all, of these what we consider provocative actions.
You've also been holding informal talks with North Korea. Do you see any changes in perhaps their willingness to engage?
As far as you can judge, they really keep trying to figure out what it would take to get a positive response from the United States. So I don't think there's been a shift. I think they're just frustrated because they think they can't get traction.
We see China and South Korea getting close together, and on the other part, we see Japan and North Korea getting closer together. How do you assess that?
And also the Russians and the Americans not being on very good terms. It looks pretty dismal, the landscape, for putting this back together again in any way that it can be productive. So I suspect that people are going to have to think about a new forum in order to overcome these really negative trends.
So if Prime Minister Abe does visit North Korea, how will that affect the trilateral alliance between Washington, Seoul, and Tokyo?
If it were to happen tomorrow, let's say, I think it would be a shock. If it happens some point in the future after different capitals are able to consult and people get more comfortable, maybe it won't be quite as negative.
Do you think it will harm the trilateral cooperation at all?
I think it will. I think there'll be an effort to pretend that it doesn't, but in truth, I think it will be something that people will have to work very hard at to fix.
How likely is it for us to see Kim Jong-un meet with Xi Jinping or Prime Minister Abe?
I would bet that he would meet with Prime Minister Abe before he meets with Xi Jinping. It's just my sense that that's liable to happen first.
Time now for a look through some of the other international headlines we're following on this Monday morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim, standing by at the News Centre. Good morning, Eunice.
Hello, Mark.
US Secretary of State John Kerry is on his way to Egypt on this Monday to work out a possible ceasefire agreement in the Israeli-Hamas conflict. This comes after Sunday was the deadliest day of the conflict thus far.
That's right, Mark. U.S. State Department spokesperson Jen Psaki did confirm that Secretary Kerry will fly to Cairo on this Monday to meet with Egyptian officials who, you'll remember, had proposed a ceasefire last week, rejected by Hamas. This as the UN Security Council has convened an emergency meeting at the request of Jordan. UN Chief Ban Ki-moon called the situation there atrocious as the number of civilian deaths soared with the escalated ground assault in Gaza. Fighting on Sunday did claim the most number of casualties on both the Israeli and Hamas sides. Israel's beefed-up offensive killed at least 60 Palestinians in one crowded Gaza City neighborhood and forced thousands to flee their homes to take refuge. The United Nations says more than 83,000 Gazans are now displaced. Mounting casualties is straining medical resources. Authorities at Gaza City's Al-Shifa hospital say they are facing crisis-level shortages of medical supplies. It was a deadly day for Israeli Defense Forces as well. 13 of their own were killed in an ambush, all members of the Golani Brigade. The Israeli military also said it is investigating a claim made by Hamas militants that they have captured an Israeli soldier. Tripoli International Airport continues to be the site of rival militia fighting. Sunday's struggle killed at least 4 people and caused thousands of nearby residents to flee their homes. It marks the most serious violence in the Syrian capital city since the ouster of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, pitting the Zintan fighters defending its control of the air hub and its allies against groups tied to the western coastal town of Misrata, armed with missiles, rockets, and anti-aircraft weaponry. A doctor from a local hospital said it received 9 wounded from the area. Just days earlier, one powerful militia had said it was ready to put an end to the heavy clashes, riddling the oil-producing North African state. Typhoon Ramazan continues to unleash havoc, this time in China, as its violent winds and deluge claim the lives of 17 people. The storm regained strength over the South China Sea with winds exceeding 200 kilometers an hour. It killed 8 people on the island province of Hainan before reaching the mainland. Chinese state media said 9 died in Guangxi and 5 million people were impacted. This as the death toll in the Philippines following the storm has soared to 112, with 11 people still missing. And Forbes Media has sold a majority stake in its company to a Hong Kong-based group of international investors. Steve Forbes will remain as chairman and editor-in-chief after the sale to Integrated Whale Media Investments for an undisclosed sum goes through. Forbes said the sale of the company founded by his grandfather should be seen as an opportunity to continue and strengthen the company's mission. Forbes Media had been under family ownership for the past 97 years.
Said that a team of South Korea.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. Arirang News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers 15 billion. Now, back here in Korea, the National Assembly opens its extraordinary session for the month of July on this Monday, and the ruling and opposition sides are expected to continue locking horns over a special bill on April's Sewol-ho ferry disaster. The rival parties, who had previously set July 16th as the date to pass the bill, failed to resume negotiations on narrowing their differences over the weekend. The floor leaders of the two sides will attempt to break the impasse at their weekly meeting later on this Monday morning at 11 a.m. in fact. That's about 45 minutes from now. The main opposition, New Politics Alliance for Democracy, wants the probe committee contained in the bill to be given investigative authority, while the ruling Saenuri party opposes it. 3 opposition lawmakers have joined the families of the ferry disaster victims in a hunger strike in front of the National Assembly, calling for a swift passage of the bill. Now, Korea's new finance minister is expected to provide a stronger direction for the Korean economy. Pundits say Choi Kyung-hwan's comments over the weekend offer a glimpse at what he has in store for the domestic economy. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Reforms, including deregulation, are key to jump-starting the nation's economy. Those were the words spoken by Korea's finance minister, Choi Kyung-hwan, appointed last week. In this spirit, Choi offered a number of proposals to boost investment, including tax breaks for small and mid-sized companies, or SMEs, using an accounting method called accelerated depreciation. It involves depreciating an asset at a faster rate early on in that asset's life to help reduce a company's taxable income by deferring the tax to later years. Also, Choi said he would work to remodel industrial complexes to encourage more young employees to work for the SMEs therein. Choi said he would work with related ministries to restore worn-out facilities and improve life for residents there.
I want to improve the facilities to make it easier for young people to want to work and live here.
To boost the property market, Choi promised to ease regulations for home buyers. The government eased the debt-to-income ratio and loan-to-value ratio. They limit the amount that prospective buyers can borrow from banks based on various economic indicators, including income. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, we're smack bang in the middle of monsoon season here in Korea, but you wouldn't really know it by looking out of your nearest window. Rain has been hard to come by so far this summer, in the central region especially, and that has had an effect on the buying habits of Koreans. Our Connie Kim reports.
The monsoon period here in Korea, which usually falls from late June to late July, is when the nation receives about 40% of its precipitation for the whole year. But weaker than normal atmospheric pressure from the North Pacific has made for dry conditions so far this summer, and it's had a direct effect on consumer spending.
Rain boots and umbrellas are usually flying off the shelves by now, but not this year.
Our sales have been dominated more by people going on vacation this year. Folding tables and camping-related items have been quite popular.
Sales of leisure or folding tables have jumped the most among all summer products, followed by camping and barbecue gear. It's a sign that consumers are adjusting to the abnormally dry weather conditions. Some 400 millimeters of rain fell on Seoul from July 1st to the 15th last year, while just 23.5 millimeters has fallen this year. As such, less people are buying rain boots, umbrellas, and other rain-related products, including dehumidifiers, which have been affected the most among all electric items. The retail industry has also had to adjust its marketing strategies.
Compared to last year, we aren't featuring dehumidifiers or clothing that usually sells well during the monsoon period. We've cut out our coverage of these items by about 20 to 30%.
Instead, they're promoting more vacation-related products, which have enjoyed a sales boom 2 to 3 weeks earlier than normal. Industry insiders say some retail shops have already started focusing on their upcoming fall products, as the monsoon season isn't forecast to be as severe as in years past. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, in some tech news, local researchers have designed a device that can detect super high-energy cosmic rays. Now, this invention could hopefully anyway, raise Korea's global status in the space industry. Our Paulie explains.
This 1 square meter particle detector, made up of 2,500 semiconductor wafers piled up in 4 layers, is what's called a cosmic ray detector. Local university researchers came up with the idea for the design and have since developed it using domestic technology. It's expected to measure the charged constitution of cosmic rays with unprecedented accuracy.
Cosmic rays that arrive on Earth can be made up of any kind of atomic nucleus, be it of hydrogen, oxygen, carbon. Our detector will sort the elements with 99% accuracy.
The cosmic rays that contain super high energy cannot be produced on Earth and were first discovered in 1912. They are presumed to come from supernova explosions within the Milky Way galaxy, but they remain a mystery by and large.
How these particles achieve these so high energies, in other words, how do cosmic accelerators work, is the main question. One of the big mysteries in astrophysics, and that's what we are trying to understand.
The cosmic ray detector has now been transferred to NASA for a final checkup before it is sent to the International Space Station for 3 years to analyze elements of the rays. It will represent the first locally developed instrument to be installed on the ISS, and Korea hopes that raises its global status in the space industry. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off with the South Korean national football team as the KFA announced that the team will play 6 more friendlies before the end of the year. Now, in preparations for the upcoming Asian Cup in Australia taking place in January, the KFA announced that the South Korean national football team will play 6 more times this year. They added that they'll play 2 matches per month from September to November. And according to an official at the KFA, the first 2 matches will be against South American nations, with Venezuela and Uruguay in talks for the September friendlies. Meanwhile, the KFA hopes to choose their next head coach before the friendlies begin. And staying with football, but over to some Sunday's K-League Classic action. The Pohang Steelers shut out Busan I-Park 2-0 to keep their first-place lead, while the Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors faced off against Hangju Sangmu. So let's take a look at the highlights. Now, of course, this match is a special match for Chae Eun-sung, who had his retirement ceremony after 532 matches in the K-League, with each player on the Jeonbuk squad wearing 532 on their uniform. But once the match kicked off, it was another Jeonbuk legend who scores the first goal as Lee Dong-guk finds the back of the net in the 17th minute as Jeonbuk takes a 1-0 lead. And then the second half comes along and, hey, why don't we score a little bit more? 5 more goals being scored in the second half by Jeonbuk as they crush Sangju with the final score of 6-0. And now over to badminton, where all eyes were on Sung Ji-hyun of South Korea after Lee Yong-dae pulled out of the competition over on the men's mixed doubles due to an injury. And she didn't disappoint as she dominated in the finals of the Taiwan Open Grand Prix Gold, winning her 2nd Taiwan Open title. That's the first title win of the season for her since winning the Asian Championships back in April. And now with that, moving over to golf, where the KLPGA Jeju Masters was highlighted by the presence of Park In-bi, who not only played well, but treated the fans with a little something special on the final day. The 26-year-old holding a 6-iron at par 3 third hole nails a hole-in-one, her first official hole-in-one of her career, leaving the fans in awe, as she would finish off the event tied for 4th after shooting a 10 under par overall. Meanwhile, it was the 9th-year Yoon Chae-young who won her first KLPGA title after finishing off the event at 11 under par overall for the emotional victory. And now finishing things off with the Open Championship, aka the PGA British Open, as Rory McIlroy dominated throughout the 4 rounds of the event, winning his 3rd major of his career. Despite Sergio Garcia storming through the final round, shooting a 6 under on the day, the 25-year-old from Northern Ireland keeps his composure and keeps his lead throughout the day to finish 4th with 17 under par overall to finish with the 2014 British Open title. Also with the win, Roy just needs a Masters win in order to complete a career Grand Slam, as he now has the other 3 majors already in the bag. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. Well, it's going to be a scorching day today. Heat wave will continue to bake the whole peninsula, and afternoon highs will be hovering in the low to mid 30s across the nation. So the heat wave advisory and warnings have been expanded in much of the country. So don't forget to apply a good amount of sunblock and drink plenty of water to prevent heat stroke. And it seems like a fair amount of sun under clouds are expected throughout the day as well. So with the sun, heat and humid, it's going to make us feel hotter than actual temperatures. So let's take a closer look at those numbers. Well, the afternoon high in Seoul will rise to 32, while Daegu will climb to 35, and Gwangju and Busan will have a daily high of 31 and 30 respectively. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju Island and Daejeon should see highs of 29 and 32, and Dokdo should rise to 28. And from tomorrow, we are expecting monsoon rain here in Seoul, and it's forecasted to rain throughout the week. And this band of shower will drop the temperatures a few notches. So please keep that in mind. And that's all for now, and hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Jiyeon. And that's all we have for now. But we'll be back with another newscast at noon Korea time in about 90 minutes. Until then, goodbye.